Hey everybody, this is Perch. A lot of the videos talking about how the comic market works and how the publisher, sells to the shop then sells to the customer. And I've used this expression of B to B to C business, which I think some of you probably knew. For a lot of you, you don't. This is a new concept for you, but it's very common. This idea of B to B to C as a market or a business is in tons of different places. In fact, I think in many worlds, that is by far the more common thing you interact with, even if you don't necessarily realize it. An example might be if you go to Walmart or you go to Target. Target is that middle B. A business is selling its goods to Target, and Target is in selling them to you. It's the middle chain. And so in that world, what's important is the manufacturer, the producer of the goods, has to make sure that their channel is robust and strong and protected, because they don't go direct to consumer. It's one of the big debates going on right now with Amazon. And if you look at some of the antitrust stuff that's happening and various claims, that Amazon is also a marketplace. It is a B to B to C, but they invest in some of the B. So they have their own products kind of sitting alongside other manufacturers, and then it's all sitting there in the same kind of ecosystem. And then that, are they giving themselves a competitively unfair advantage? In a retail store, in a box store, Target can have things that they own as a corporation there. But it's still, there's not automatic search terms and other things that pull those things to your attention. They can put them on end caps. Anyway, that could be a whole other discussion. But comics is by its nature a B to B to C business, meaning the manufacturer, the publisher, Marvel or DC or Image or, small company, Scout, whoever it might be. They produce the books. They hire, by and large, freelancers to do it. So people on demand, they curate the books, get the books ready, put the books into print, get the books to a distributor to then migrate or push it to that middle B, in this case, the local comic book shop. And in collected graphic novel formats, you have Barnes & Noble and bookstores and places like that as well. So that middle B at sometimes is more than just the LCS. But for floppies, for the monthly comic, which is kind of the core bread and butter for comics, I know we've seen a lot of things about how graphic novels are rising, and they are. But in a lot of cases, those numbers, when you see them, also include stuff from manga and material that is only a graphic novel, the Raina Telgemeier stuff, the Dogman stuff. And so if you weed all that out and you're purely doing floppies, kind of the core floppy comic book, then, the LCS is that B. It is that channel. It is that destination point. That's it. And, what that means, in effect, is that the LCS, that middle B, is very important. And so the publisher often will, as much as they can, play to that B. But the problem is, unlike a Target and a Walmart, the LCSs it's not one chain, and it's not well structured. In many cases, some of these shops have been open for 20 or 30 years. They're using, in a lot of cases, archaic methods to both do inventory. Some are using modern software. Some are using no software. It's a grab bag. Some have a robust new comic business. Some have pull boxes. Some don't. Some are more games. Some are more Funko Pops. It's a very difficult channel because it's very unstructured. It's random. And so that makes it difficult. And in some cases, for the publisher, they will just at times ignore the retailer. When I say ignore, I don't mean that as harshly negative as it probably sounds. It just means they're unsure of how to properly get market research and listen to what the retailer has to say. So in a lot of cases, editors and people at the publisher will have very anecdotal, evidence or input into what's going on at the comic shop. They will go to their local comic shop, and their local comic shop most likely recognizes them, or, the editor made friends there. And, they're getting input, but it's, probably pretty biased input because the store owner knows the people involved work for the company, and it's just different. There's a couple comic shops in New York that are often frequented by comic creators and editors and people who work for the publisher. And, they get a different bit of feedback. If you are by the way, a comic creator, you probably have your favorite shops. But do this. Next time you're in a town for a con or just traveling, go out of your way to find a small shop that you've never heard of before, that isn't, friendly, somebody you've already dealt with, and just go in. First of all, see if they recognize you. Chances are they will not. That can be a little bit humbling, but just get the input from them. You're going to get probably a different bit of input from the people who, from what they tell you at your favorite shop. There's one shop in New York that I was talking to the owner, and his comment, I'm paraphrasing, but it's as close to the quote as possible. No, I don't give honest feedback to the comic creators that regularly come into my store. Frankly, I need them to come every now and then and do signings. It's important to my model. If I told them what I and the customers really think, they'd never come back here again. And so this is kind of the dynamic of what we have. But, notice I haven't talked about the customer, which in many cases for the people listening to this is probably you. 98% of the people listening to this right now are probably that end customer or the consumer. In some cases, when you have a B2B2C business, they call the first one the business, the manufacturer, the second one the customer, because they're the one buying the product from the business, and then the final one, the you, basically going in to buy your comics at the shop, the consumer. They do that to kind of classify who the customer is. And there's truth to that. You've seen Eric Larson, you've seen others talk about, hey, the real customer for us is not the fans, it's the shop. And if you're being very strict about it, if you're being very kind of extreme about the wording, that's true. The comic shop is the one that's putting the cash in the publisher's hands. But the comic shop is only ordering what it can sell. The comic shop is not in the business of just creating a, Raiders of the Lost Ark style archive room of boxes filled with unsellable comics. The comic shop will calibrate to what can be ordered. And this, again, goes back to every comic shop is different. You've got shops in different areas that, can sell the hell out of the Avengers. And then you go 500 miles east and they can't sell the Avengers to save their life, and they live off indie comics. And that's the clientele that comic shop has managed to procure. That's why it's really important to get lots of input. But the one thing that is, it's just a dumb fight to pick. And again, this whole thing burned through, and it was kind of wild watching it, go. Is a retailer films a video, and he's very passionate about it. And several people did the reaction saying he said nothing wrong. He didn't say anything wrong. Now, keep in mind, he did say these comics are shit. And that's his opinion. So it's not that it's wrong, but you can understand, hopefully anyone can understand why if you say this comic isn't very good or this comic is shit, one of those is a little bit more action oriented than the other. It's going to inflame a little bit more passion. But regardless of that, honestly, to be fair is fair, certainly this harsher language. However, it goes back to market research is tough. You go to lots of different companies around the world, and market research is typically something you pay high dollar for. It's hard to obtain. It's hard to get unbiased market research. It's not easy. And so, when somebody gives you an opinion, it may not be a one you like. This is why getting and receiving feedback is so tough for people, and why there are, entire classes and courses on how to do it and how to, be graceful about it. But generally speaking, the rule of thumb, most companies is when somebody tells you something you don't like as feedback, and that person is literally your sales channel, which is the case of the LCS, the right thing to do is be graceful and say, okay, thank you. Now, in your head, you may be going, this guy is stupid, fat, ugly, hate him, don't agree with a single thing he says, all that kind of stuff. But you keep those words in your head. And you go, okay. And then, if you're properly balanced, you go, is there truth to this? Is there something to learn from this? And in some cases, there's not, by the way. Not all feedback is created equal. But it is dumb to ignore feedback, even if it's only from one source. Market research strives to understand kind of the nature, the background, the demographics of the person giving you that feedback, and, the bias included inside of it. But saying, I can ignore this one, it's just one person. That's a dumb move. Doesn't matter if it's just one person. You need to listen to that feedback. Now, you don't stop with one. A dumb thing to do would be, just like a lot of people who work for publishers do today, get the one comic shop they like, the one that kisses their ass, and that becomes their single source of truth. But you have to start somewhere. And on two fronts. One, it's wise to know what people are saying, and it's wise to understand how your product is being consumed in the marketplace. Number two, and maybe a more pragmatic, bigger number two, is this is your sales channel, literally your sales channel. And just like a lot of comic creators talk, a lot of retailers talk. I'm in a lot of retailer groups. And I will tell you, the sentiment of that guy's comments was he was over the top. He was over the top in his comments, the retailer. But the sentiment of the comic fans, or sorry, the comic creators and the people who attacked him was, oh, fuck those guys. I'm lowering my orders. No exaggeration, no drama. They absolutely found it distasteful and irritating. And keep in mind, retailers were already pissed off because by and large, they feel like the publishers ignore them. This is a feeling that's existed for 30 years or more. There's been this dynamic for a long time. And having creators, even though some of these people are not attached to the big two and don't speak for anyone, they're certainly not spokespeople of Marvel or DC, even though that's a dynamic who they are, the retailers are just angry. If you're trying to figure out how to make new comic sales work, and this stuff comes out, all you do is at that point you double down on your Funko Pops, your game nights, and your other things. You're like, this is just a bunch of clowns. That's what you think, and that's what was said in mass. And that's dangerous because this is your sales channel. Again, in a B to B to C world, the business, the manufacturer, that first B, it really should be on good terms with both its reseller and the customer or the consumer. It should be on good terms with both. That is the proper state. That's the only intelligent state. It can survive if its relationship is worse with the customer than it is with the middle B, that business. Again, not a good idea. Do not take my words out of context. But, you can stumble along if every now and then you insult your customer fan, but you kiss the ass of your reseller. You can. Because again, those are the people giving you the direct check. Eventually that catches up to you because a reseller can't stay in business if the customer base all abandons the product. I mean, they're just not going to pull money out of nowhere. But, that's I say it's a smarter play, but it's really like dumb or really dumb. Really dumb is attack both. Dumb is, you just attack your customers, but at least you kiss the ass of your resellers. In this case, again, whether the guy is saying something you want to hear or not, I'm sure it hurts feelings to say your book is shit. I'm sure it hurts feelings to hear that you're a self-insert. I'm sure all that stuff sucks to hear. Absolutely. No doubt about it. But that is your sales channel. If you would like to stop having to listen to that guy, you're going to have to build up a better sales channel. You're going to have to reopen the newsstand. You're going to have to find a different place to move your books. But right now, that's what you got. And so attacking that is dumb. Just full out dumb. Again, it's really easy not to attack anybody. That's why even the stuff that goes on, whether you're a traditional publisher or you're selling your books online, you're selling your books in a comic shop or through YouTube, going to war with people, every time you do that, you are taking customers away. And it's dumb to do, no matter who you are. But when you attack your direct sales channel, you are absolutely cutting yourself in the throat at that point. Thanks for listening.